This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Today, the NFL's schedule releases, and because the NFL loves to make things that really should be emails and easily just could be emails into these extravagant, super long televised events for money, it's going to be released at 8 o'clock on a 3-hour television show on the NFL Network. Now, what I am doing to hopefully make this more bearable, and what me and the AFC North Talk guys are doing, hopefully to make this whole thing a little bit more bearable for everybody, because this is just peak NFL doing peak NFL stuff. We're gonna go live at 8 p.m. today, and I'm gonna simulcast that stream on my channel, so we can interact and talk about the schedules as they get announced. They are saying in their official press release that in that 8 p.m. special, they are going to break down the regular season schedule division by division, analyzing the top matchups in primetime games for a 3-hour show. So I'm assuming that we're going to find out in that 3-hour show what the primetime games are. Maybe after that show, or maybe during the day, they release what the actual schedule is. Please, NFL, please do that. But if that's the case, and this is going to be kind of withheld until 8 p.m., then that's going to be what happens. We're going to do that live stream. Also, at 7 a.m., so after an hour after this video goes live, apparently they're announcing the international games as well. And they're going to have a bunch of coverage on that. It's going to be like a 2-hour Good Morning Football segment on NFL Network, if that's something that you want to check out. So 5 hours of content to tell us who we playing. Right? Like, I understand in a lot of ways. I appreciate what the NFL does with turning things into content, because it does help me as somebody who makes content about the NFL. But in other ways, I'm like, y'all making my life a lot more difficult in the lives of people who just want to know what they're going to be doing on Sundays and what time they're going to be doing it. A lot more difficult for no reason, man. Just release the schedule in a PDF, send the email out, and then people just retweet it. It ain't got to be no 3-hour segment, but it's going to be a 3-hour segment. That's just the way it goes. So here's what we know so far about the schedule that's been leaked, and things that don't have to be leaked because they're public knowledge. We know that this is 100% going to be how some of this stuff plays out, because we know this is how it plays out. One, we know who the home and the road opponents are going to be. I'm going to list them out in a second. Don't worry. We know the Browns are playing the Cowboys week 1 at 4:30 on Fox with Tom Brady on the call. That's confirmed. The team has tweeted it themselves. We also know, or at least it is rumored by multiple Jacksonville media people, that the Browns will not be playing Jacksonville in London. So they will be playing them, what I heard is week 2. So not going to be playing in London, which means the Browns won't have any international games. As you know, they're not playing the Philadelphia Eagles either in Brazil week 1, which has been confirmed, and that's when the Brazil game is going to be. So we know that for a fact it's not going to happen. Home and away schedule. Home, the Browns are going to play the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers. Road opponents this year will be the Broncos, the Raiders, the Eagles, the Commanders, the Jaguars, the Saints, the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers. I honestly, when I look at these home and road opponents, on the road, I don't see many environments that I'm like really afraid of. Like Philadelphia, I mean, that's going to be a rowdy crowd, but they don't have like a crazy home field advantage. There's going to be difficult to beat the Eagles because they're a really good team, but I don't think the road element of it is going to be that much, given that there's not that much travel between Cleveland and Philadelphia. Not the most daunting environments outside the AFC North that you're going to have to play in, right? New Orleans, Jacksonville, Washington, LA, Las Vegas, and Denver, not really known for having like these really daunting environments at this point of their existence. So, that's a good thing, right? Now, obviously, you play the Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers, which you always worry about road division games, especially in the AFC North. Home opponents, Kansas City. Obviously, you're always concerned about Kansas City. And here's my thing with strength of schedule. I'm not one that's going to freak out because the Browns are projected to have a very high strength of schedule. I assume that the Browns are going to have a strong schedule no matter what, no matter where they finish, no matter who they're playing, because the Browns play in the AFC North. And when you play in the AFC North, you're just going to have a difficult schedule, point blank, period. In the NFL, you're just going to have a difficult schedule as well. So when you play in the toughest division in the NFL, your schedule is going to be tough 9 times out of 10. There's no real thing as an easy ride. The Browns schedule last year wasn't easy. You played both teams. Well, you played what? 2 teams that were in the AFC and NFC championship games. One of them was in the Super Bowl last year. You had to play them with your backup quarterback, your backup quarterback. So the schedule wasn't easy last year for the Browns. They were still able to win despite a lot of circumstance. The schedule's not going to be easy this year for the Browns, and the task is going to be the same for them, right? Now, as far as quarterbacks go, I know a lot of people love to make a big deal out of the quarterbacks that you have to play. I look at it this way. The only quarterback that I seriously worry about when it comes to can you beat this guy is Pat Mahomes, because that's the one guy in the NFL you legitimately worry about could you beat, because he is very difficult to beat. He's the one quarterback in the NFL where it's an event when you beat him, right? When you beat Pat Mahomes, everybody talks about it. There's no other quarterback in the NFL that is like that, right? Now, that doesn't mean that there's no other good quarterbacks. There's no other great quarterbacks. There are a lot of good quarterbacks and some great quarterbacks as well. But when we're talking about quarterbacks that alter how you feel about the season because of how difficult they are to beat, the only one that exists there that wasn't there last year is Pat Mahomes. And honestly, Pat Mahomes is really the only guy in the NFL where I look at it and I go, I don't know if you could beat him, even if you're really good, right? Because Pat is Pat. It's an event when you beat Pat, but it's not an event when you beat Justin Herbert. It's not an event if you beat Dak Prescott. It's not an event if you beat Daniel Jones or whoever's going to be starting in New York. It's not an event if you beat Tua. It's not really an event if the Browns beat the Ravens at this point. They've done it before. It's definitely not an event if the Browns beat Joe Burrow. They've done it a bunch. It's not an event if the Browns beat Russell Wilson or whoever's starting for the Broncos or whoever's starting for the Raiders or not Justin Fields. I'm tripping on that one. That might be Pittsburgh. But Jalen Hurts is not really an event. Whoever starts for the Commanders is not an event if you beat them. It's not an event if you beat Trevor Lawrence. It's not an event if you beat Derek Carr or whoever's starting for. Like, you see what I mean? Like, there's really only one quarterback in the NFL that beating that quarterback is seen as a massive deal. Everybody else is pretty gettable in the grand scheme of things. So I don't really worry about who the home and road opponents are or any of that. I don't put a lot of stock into what quarterbacks you're going to play, because ultimately, just because a team has a good quarterback doesn't mean they're impossible to beat. Maybe the team with the best one is a little bit harder to beat, but all those other guys, they get beat all the time. So it's not really something I'm going to be like, shaking in my boots on, because I think the Browns are supposed to be or should be one of the better teams in the NFL. They should be able to beat most of these teams, even if they have good quarterback play. We're not looking to sneak out of here with like a 9-8 record. We're talking about this team winning 13 games, potentially. You can't be sitting here shivering in your boots because you got to play Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? So I don't really care about that whole element of it. What we want to know as fans, right? There's 2 elements to the schedule release: what's actually important to the team and what is important to us as fans, and quasi important to the team, but it's more aesthetically than it is functional for the team. One, are there any international games? There's not, so you don't have to worry about that. Is according to rumors on the internet and according to beat reporters in Jacksonville, we're not playing them, and we're definitely not playing Philadelphia, so we're not in the international game circuit. National TV games, we love national TV games. Some of us do, some of us don't, because you got to work in the morning, and that really messes up your schedule. When the Browns play at night or they play on Thursday night, but national TV games for most of us are fun. Right, we like them. You can get to see the big broadcast, nice camera angles. Everybody talks about your team. We talked about how important national TV games are when it comes to building a reputation and the perception of your players. So it's an opportunity for people to build brands. I hate that term, but build brands, or to build, their legacy is a better way, right? If you want Miles to add to his legacy, national TV games are a great way to do it. If you want Deshaun Watson to rebuild his football legacy, then this is a great way to do it. National TV games matter when it comes to narratives, and narratives drives who gets awards and, how people talk about your team going into the playoffs. So, that matters on the way. You want to know how many semi-national games you have, right? Like, you're not going to have every game be a national TV game, but how many games are the number one time slot or the number one game at 420, right? The 425 slot with Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on the broadcast, or the 425 spot on Fox with Tom Brady. Those aren't technically national TV games because they're not played for a full national audience. Whoever else is playing at 425 does not get that game, but it might as well be a national TV game because you get all of the benefits of being on national TV, including a giant audience, right? Because a lot of people watch those 425 games. You could argue sometimes even more than the 8 o'clock games. But you want to know if you're playing in those highlighted games, right? Another highlighted game is holidays, right? Are the Browns going to be playing New Year's? Not New Year's, on Thanksgiving? Probably not. But, are they going to be playing on Christmas Eve? Are they going to be playing Christmas Day? Are they going to be doing any of those themed holiday type games? Those are also fun to know, and also good to know ahead of time so you can schedule your holiday events accordingly. Now let's talk about what actually matters when it comes to how the schedule might affect the Browns' ability to win in the season. One, you have to check for, are there any long road trips, right? Road trips are painful. We saw this last year. You'll lose games you shouldn't lose because you want a long ass road trip. And you want to make sure that you can avoid a crazy West Coast trip like the Browns had last year. Now, when I look at the road opponents, I don't see very many West Coast teams. I only see the Broncos and the Raiders as teams with different time slots. Saints are in the hour minus, they're in Central Time as well. So you only go back in that Pacific time zone once for the Raiders. Hopefully that's on a Monday night or something, or Thursday. Well, now I don't know if you want to go Thursday night. Like, you don't want to go Thursday night on the road, especially on the West Coast. You want to Broncos and then the Saints. So those are the three games that are going to be the furthest away from Cleveland and have that time difference. Is something to watch. Also, you want to watch when your Thursday night game is going to be and where your Thursday night game is going to be. I pound the table for this. Thursday night games at home are a cheat code. Like, teams win those like 60% of the time, despite the fact that they shouldn't win them sometimes. A home Thursday night game is the biggest home field advantage you can get in the NFL. So you want to make sure you not only get a Thursday night game, but you get a Thursday night game at home. Also, when is that Thursday night game? Is that Thursday night game nicely spaced with your bye week? So you can have a quasi mini bye later in the season. And when is your bye week is also a very important thing, right? So when are you playing the bye week? Is it an early bye? Is it a late bye? Is it a middle bye? I don't really have a preference for whether the bye week is in the middle of the season or at the end of the season. I really just don't like the early bye week. Like, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know if it means anything for your health long term. The Browns had an early bye last year. They had a ton of injuries, but that's not scientific evidence that having an early bye is terrible for your injury health. But, I think for most of us, we feel more comfortable with the middle of the season bye. or at least somewhere close to the middle of the season, towards the end of the season bye week. And you want to have a Thursday night game, either early or late, kind of to supplement that, to get a little bit of a mini bye if you need to get back on track earlier later on in the season. Now, here's the number one thing I think people miss when they talk about the schedule and they talk about what's important on the schedule, because it's something you can take for granted because these games are going to happen. But when you play your division games and what time those division games are matters, right? Is one of your Thursday night games at home a division game, or do you have a Thursday night game on the road in a division? That matters. Do you have a lot of division games early in the season? Well, if you're a team that feels like you're built off of continuity and you're not going to have any slowdowns to start the year, that might be good because you can roll off some quick division wins for teams that might not be ready for that. Or you might be a team that might want to play these division games just a little bit later. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I probably want to play my division games after the third week of the season, just to make sure the offense is where you want it to be. And that to give Nick Chubb time to kind of be Nick Chubb before you get into that division schedule. So I think that's something to consider. But these are all the things I'm going to be looking for when the schedule comes out. We're going to be doing the simulcast stream of the schedule release. If that's how things break out, if the schedule releases before that whole thing, then I'm just going to talk about it and then go live with AFC North, but North Talk. But I'm probably not going to do a simulcast stream. Keep your eye out, but I'm probably not going to do it because I'd rather just talk to you guys about that as soon as possible instead of like waiting to 8 p.m. to do it. And making you sit through a 3-hour broadcast. Like, I really hope it just gets leaked. But if that happens, I'll go live with that whole thing. But that's what's to look for this schedule. We'll break down the schedule on one video after the schedule releases. And then after that, we'll have fun with spoiling the 2024 season, which is something I always like to do, have some fun with it. But that's it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.